He just wanted to develop a few old photo booth pictures from the 90s. But one strip showed him sitting beside a girl he's never met. The weird part? The date stamp says July 14, 1995. He was only 5 years old that day. The girl in the photo booth. It started as a quiet Sunday morning, the kind that smelled of dust and coffee. Daniel had been cleaning out his late father's attic when he found an old Kodak envelope buried under a pile of vinyl records. Inside were several strips of photo booth pictures, those grainy 4-frame memories people used to take at malls in the 90s. Most showed strangers, laughing couples, groups of teens, a few kids making faces. He was about to toss them aside when one particular strip made him freeze. The last photo showed a man sitting beside a young woman in a red dress. But the man wasn't just anyone. It was him. Same jawline, same scar above the eyebrow, the same tired eyes. Except the timestamp printed at the bottom read, July 14, 1995. A full 10 years before he'd even turned 15. He sat back, staring at it under the flickering attic light. The woman next to him wasn't someone he recognized. Her expression was blank, almost lifeless. Her eyes turned slightly toward the lens, as if she knew someone would look at this photo decades later. The background was that familiar patterned curtain every photo booth had, blue with fading stars. He whispered to himself, "This can't be real." Maybe it was an old Photoshop prank, something his father had done for fun? But his father barely knew how to send an email, let alone manipulate photos. Daniel noticed his own wrist in the picture, wearing a digital watch. He looked down. The same model was still on his wrist, a family hand-me-down he'd worn for years. His breath hitched. The seconds on the watch in the photo matched the ones ticking on his wrist right now, perfectly synced. The next morning, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about the photograph. He placed it carefully on his kitchen table, staring at it between sips of bitter coffee. The woman's blank stare seemed to follow him, her faded red dress appearing brighter the longer he looked at it. He tried to dismiss it as coincidence. Maybe the man in the photo just looked like him. But the resemblance was undeniable. Even the faint scar on his right eyebrow, a mark he got from falling off his bike at 12, was there. His pulse raced as he flipped the photo strip over. Written on the back, in faint blue ink, were 3 words, "Meet me again." He felt a chill crawl up his neck. The handwriting wasn't his. It wasn't his father's either. And below that message, scribbled faintly in pencil, was an address, Fairview Mall, booth number 3. Daniel frowned. Fairview Mall had been torn down years ago, replaced by a modern complex. Still, curiosity gnawed at him until it became unbearable. By noon, he was in his car, driving toward the place where the mall used to stand. When he arrived, there was nothing left, just an empty parking lot and the outline of cracked concrete. But as he walked closer, he noticed a small maintenance shack near the edge of the lot. Its rusted door was half open, and from inside came a faint humming sound. He hesitated, then pushed the door open. Inside, the smell of old film chemicals and burnt wiring hit him instantly. The room was small, filled with discarded mall signs, broken neon lights, and a photo booth. Its red curtain hung loosely, covered in dust. Booth number 3. The metal plate read. Daniel's stomach dropped. The machine looked ancient, out of place. Yet when he touched it, it felt warm. The hum grew louder, rhythmic, almost like breathing. He stepped inside. The seat was cracked, the mirror fogged, but the camera lens gleamed faintly red, as if alive. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a coin, not even sure why. He dropped it into the slot. The machine jolted awake with a harsh click, and the flash went off before he could react. For blinding bursts of light, then silence. The photo strip slid out seconds later, curling slightly from heat. Daniel's hands trembled as he lifted it. The first 3 frames showed him sitting alone, confused, his expression shifting from curiosity to fear. The 4th frame, the final one, showed him staring forward with wide, terrified eyes. Behind him, clear as day, was the same girl in the red dress, her face turned toward him, whispering something he couldn't hear. Daniel stumbled out of the booth, gasping. The curtain behind him fluttered as though someone had brushed past. The parking lot outside was silent, empty, except for faint laughter echoing from nowhere. He looked down. The new photo strip in his hand had changed. In the final frame, the girl wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking at the camera. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The photo strip lay on his nightstand beneath the faint light of his lamp. Its edges curled as if trying to escape the frame. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes. The red dress, the dim booth, the sound of laughter echoing through the empty lot. Around 2 a.m., a soft rustling sound broke the silence. He turned toward the nightstand. The photo strip was moving. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the top frame was peeling upward, like the paper itself was breathing. Daniel froze, too terrified to move. Then, just as quickly, it stopped. He sat up, rubbed his eyes, and reached for the strip. The fourth photo, the one where the girl had looked at the camera, was different now. Her mouth was open. Her eyes weren't just staring forward. They were looking right at him. He dropped it instantly. His breath came in short gasps. "This isn't real," he told himself. "I'm just tired." But then his phone buzzed. A notification. New photo added to gallery. Confused, he unlocked it. There, among his normal pictures, was a new image. A dark, blurry photo of his bedroom taken from the corner near the closet. In the image, he could faintly see himself lying on the bed. And in the mirror behind him, the girl in the red dress was standing. Daniel jumped up and switched on every light in the room. The mirror was empty, the closet door half open. The room was cold, unnaturally cold. He forced himself to look back at the photo on his phone. It was still there. No glitch, no app issue, it was real. He deleted it, heart pounding, but seconds later another photo appeared. This time it was darker, closer. The girl's face was blurred. Her eyes blackened as if smudged with ash. Over the next few days, Daniel's life unraveled. Every reflective surface seemed to betray him. His bathroom mirror, the black screen of his TV, even puddles on the street. He began seeing her standing behind him, always just far enough to make him doubt his sanity. Once, while brushing his teeth, he saw her reflection move after he stopped. She turned her head toward him and smiled. That lifeless, frozen smile from the photo booth. The glass shattered as he stumbled backward, cutting his hands. He stopped going to work. He covered every mirror, every screen in his apartment with sheets. But no matter what he did, the photos kept appearing, in his phone gallery, in his printer tray, even in his mailbox. Each one showed her closer, closer, until one morning, a strip arrived showing only him, sitting alone in the booth again. In the last frame, however, his head was turned slightly, and behind his ear, her hand rested on his shoulder. Daniel couldn't take it anymore. He packed a bag, determined to leave town. But as he reached for his car keys, he froze. Hanging from his keychain was a tiny strip of photo paper, curled and yellowed with age. It was the same picture, and now, in the final frame, both of them were smiling. Daniel drove for hours, his eyes bloodshot, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The road stretched endlessly, yet somehow every route led him back to the same place, the old Fairview lot. It was as if the world had folded in on itself, forcing him to return. He parked the car and sat there, trembling, staring at the empty field bathed in the pale orange glow of the streetlights. The booth wasn't there anymore, just cracked asphalt and weeds. But the hum, that faint mechanical hum, it was back, whispering through the air like a memory that refused to die. He stepped out, drawn forward by something he couldn't explain. The night was silent except for the faint static in his ears. As he moved closer to where the booth once stood, the air thickened, colder, heavier. He looked down. There, embedded in the ground, was a single photo strip, half buried in the dirt. He knelt and brushed it off. The strip showed him again. But this time, each frame captured him at different moments from the past week. Sleeping, driving, looking into the mirror. The last frame froze his breath. He was sitting in his car, Right now, turning to look at something behind him. He turned. No one was there. The night was empty. But when he looked back at the strip, something new had appeared. The faint outline of the girl's face, pressed close behind his shoulder, like she was forming through the paper itself. His vision blurred. The world seemed to tilt. He stumbled backward, the photo strip fluttering from his hand. He ran. Through the cracked lot, through the cold night air, until he reached a nearby diner glowing faintly at the roadside. Inside, the lights were warm, human. He sat at a booth, clutching his phone like a lifeline. The waitress, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes, asked if he was okay. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, half joking. He tried to smile but couldn't. His voice shook as he asked, "Did there used to be a mall here? With a photo booth?" Her smile faded. "Fairview Mall? Burned down in 1996. Electrical fire in the arcade wing. Trapped a few people inside, including a teenage girl. They said she'd gone in for photos before the fire started." Daniel's throat went dry. "A girl? In a red dress?" The waitress froze. Slowly, she nodded. "Yeah. How'd you know that?" Before he could answer, the lights in the diner flickered. The jukebox behind him started playing on its own, faint, distorted carnival music. Daniel turned, heart pounding. In the diner window's reflection, his seat wasn't empty anymore. The girl in the red dress sat beside him, her face expressionless, her hand resting lightly on his. The waitress screamed. The lights went out. In the darkness, Daniel heard the click-click-click of a camera shutter. 4 flashes, one after another. When the lights came back, he was gone. Only a photo strip lay on the table, still warm, showing an empty booth, and a girl smiling in the last frame. Daniel awoke to the smell of smoke. His head pounded. When his eyes opened, he wasn't in the diner anymore. He was sitting on a cold, tiled floor, surrounded by broken glass and flickering fluorescent lights. The air was thick with static, a constant low hum that vibrated deep in his skull. As his vision adjusted, he realized where he was. The patterned blue curtain, the metal stool, the faint chemical scent of photo paper. He was back inside the photo booth. Panic flooded through him. He scrambled for the curtain, but outside there was no parking lot, only darkness. An endless, void-like black that swallowed the booth whole. His reflection stared back from the booth's glass, but it wasn't quite his. His face looked drained, pale, older. Behind his reflection, barely visible, the girl stood. Her eyes were hollow, her hair falling across her face. "Who are you?" Daniel whispered. Her lips trembled. "You promised you'd come back," she said, her voice distant, echoing like a memory trapped in the walls. "You said you wouldn't leave me." He shook his head violently. "No, I don't know you. I've never." But then, like shards of broken film, flashes filled his mind, quick, jarring snapshots. The mall's arcade buzzing with laughter, the faint smell of popcorn, the glow of the booth's red light. He saw himself younger but not as a child. He was there, laughing beside her. The girl in the red dress. They were taking photos together, grinning stupidly, 2 teenagers killing time at the mall. He remembered her name, Clara. He remembered something else, too. The fire alarm blaring, smoke choking the air. Clara trapped inside the booth as flames engulfed the walls. He had tried to open the door, but it jammed. He'd run. He'd left her there. His stomach twisted. No, I didn't." The girl stepped closer, her form flickering like static. "You did," she said softly. "You left me." Her tone wasn't angry. It was worse. It was broken. "You walked away, and the booth burned. But it kept me. It remembered." Daniel pressed his hands against his head, the memories slamming back like waves. He had buried it, the guilt, the fire, the truth. His parents had moved away right after. He had convinced himself it was all a nightmare. But the booth hadn't forgotten. The walls of the booth began to tremble. Photos spilled from the slot like a waterfall, hundreds of strips fluttering to the ground, each showing Daniel through the years. Sleeping, eating, laughing, all watched by Clara's ghostly face in the background. "I've been waiting," she whispered. "Every picture you took. I was there." He screamed and tore at the curtain, but the darkness outside pressed closer, swallowing the booth whole. Clara stepped beside him, her hand cold as frost. "Now you'll stay with me," she murmured, smiling faintly. "Just like you promised." The flash fired again, once, twice, 3 times, 4. Then silence. Days later, the Fairview construction crew arrived to begin demolition of the old parking lot. The place had been fenced off for years, but new developers wanted to turn it into apartments. The crew chief, a broad man named Harris, lit a cigarette as the bulldozer roared to life. "Strange place," he muttered to a worker. "You ever notice the air here feels wrong?" The worker shrugged and pointed toward the far end of the lot. Half buried under the concrete, something metal glimmered in the morning light. They stopped the bulldozer. Beneath the cracked pavement, they uncovered the rusted frame of what looked like an old photo booth. Its panels were melted and blackened, as if from fire, but somehow intact. "Well, I'll be damned," Harris said. "Guess they missed this one." He reached for the curtain, still faintly red, and pulled it aside. Inside was nothing but ash, a few melted coins, and a stack of photo strips scattered across the seat. He picked one up. The strip was new, impossibly new, glossy and unburned. It showed a man and a woman sitting inside the booth, smiling. The man's face was tired but kind. The woman's red dress almost shimmered under the light. Harris frowned. "Who the hell takes pictures out here?" he said, handing the strip to his coworker. But the coworker dropped it almost instantly. "Boss, that guy. I saw him on the news. Missing person. Went missing last week. Daniel Miller." Harris blinked, looking again. The name did sound familiar. He turned the photo over. On the back, written in shaky blue ink, were 3 words: "Meet me again." The wind picked up, scattering the other photo strips across the ground. Harris crouched and grabbed another. In this one, Daniel wasn't smiling anymore. His expression was hollow, his eyes staring forward, and behind him, the girl in the red dress leaned close, whispering something in his ear. The next photo showed only her, sitting alone, her smile serene, the booth's interior engulfed in shadow. Harris stepped back. "All right, enough of this creepy crap," he muttered, tossing the photos aside. He signaled the bulldozer operator to crush the booth. The machine's engine growled as the metal claw lowered, pressing against the top of the structure. But before it touched, the booth emitted a sudden click, 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 for flashes burst from inside, bright enough to make everyone flinch. When the light faded, the booth was empty again. Hours later, as the crew packed up, Harris found a new strip lying near his truck. He picked it up absently, ready to toss it, but froze. The photo showed him standing by his truck, staring at something in his hand. The next frame showed the girl behind him, her hand on his shoulder. In the final frame, she was alone, smiling. That night, when Harris returned home, he tossed the strip onto his kitchen counter and cracked open a beer. But as he passed the hallway mirror, he froze. For just a second, maybe less. He saw a flash of red behind him, and a faint whisper that made his blood turn to ice. "Smile for me." The next morning, police found the photo booth gone, and a fresh strip of photos fluttering on the wind, showing 2 figures sitting side by side, grinning eternally at the camera.